Welcome to Healthcare Disrupted, where conversations, topics, and innovators share how they are disrupting healthcare to change a cookie-cutter healthcare system to become more innovative, creative, and result-driven. Now, here are your hosts, Rene Lumene and Jasmine Vializ.
Hello.
All right, welcome back to Healthcare Disrupted. I'm your host, Rene Jasmine.
And I'm Jasmine Vializ.
All right, today is December 22nd, and this is our 10th episode.
Merry
And
Christmas. It's
yes, Merry
the
Christmas to
holidays.
everybody. Exciting times for
Yeah.
sure.
Happy
Uh,
Christmas.
I know, right? Hanukkah and all that stuff, right?
Everything's in the same week, pretty much. I love it.
Absolutely. So today we wanted to kind of take a different approach on our podcast. We realized that ever since we started this podcast, we really just kind of jumped right into it. And we never really formally got a chance to introduce ourselves and what we do outside podcasting. And we thought that why not take this episode to really kind of dive into who we are, the businesses that we do. And I think it'll give our listeners the opportunity to learn something from us. And without any further ado, we'll start with Jasmine. So, Jasmine, go ahead, take it away.
Hey now. So yeah, it's funny. We kind of started right into this podcasting thing, and we really didn't think about the fact that y'all don't even know what we know and all.
Yeah.
So who are these jokers over here speaking of trying to tell us what's what with medical practices or healthcare? So
Right.
so I run a company that's called Integrated Practice Solutions. We affectionately call it IPS.
Mhm.
We are based out, well, our base was in outside of DC, just in Northern Virginia. Just recently moved our offices down to Charlotte, which is where I'm located, Charlotte, North Carolina. I love it down here. So happy for that move, the relocation. And I've had this company for 16 years now. So we are centered around healthcare, obviously. The basis of what we do really is to support the business side of healthcare. So everything that we do centers around really eliminating the confusion that exists in the field. So those of you who have been in healthcare for some time or new to healthcare are well aware of what I'm talking about. So even if providers on the healthcare side don't understand anything that goes on in the business side of healthcare, and we really help to try to put minds at ease and help to support by providing services like medical billing, or what we call revenue cycle management, and
Mhm.
credentialing, and some areas of consulting. And yeah, that's pretty much our sweet spot. So I mean, been doing this for 16 years under IPS, and before that started in somewhat of a similar route, we'll say a roundabout way, ended up on the business side of healthcare. So yeah.
Right. Now, Jasmine, correct me if I'm wrong, because I think when we first met each other through a mutual friend of ours,
Yeah. Got to
and
give Henry the credit. Hey, Henry.
right,
Big
right,
up
is
to
that
Henry
true?
Tron. So grateful for that introduction.
Yes, absolutely, for sure. Um, I think you told me that you never really worked for anyone, right?
So I have worked for people. I just, as
Okay.
it, I will say, in most of my adult years, I haven't
Okay.
worked for anyone. So I started in healthcare really young. I actually just had a chance to speak to a new prospect just right before we started this recording, and every time I say it, it makes me giggle a little bit, because when I think about like my daughter, who is now 15,
Mm-hmm.
and and I think about the age that I was when I started in healthcare, I'm like, what in the world? But like, well, who was I?
Yeah.
I was 14 when I was hired in my first practice. And so,
Wow.
and I was working at IHOP, which is a funny thing. You know, it was a brand new IHOP
Hmm.
in our town. And, you know, so it was booming. I was working on a Saturday and Sunday mornings, obviously, when I was making buku bucks, right? It was IHOP. So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
people, it was hopping, we were packed. So I probably walked away with 250 bucks, 300 bucks every day. And I'm, you know, short shift on a Saturday and a Sunday.
That's good
And
money right
tips.
there.
Sorry, and tips. Yeah.
Wow.
And um and so I basically I was approached by one of the the days, and this isn't the first time that I got a job offer. It's kind of funny story in my IHOP journey, but I was approached by a really nice gentleman who actually was not even seated in my area.
Mm-hmm.
And I had just kind of been popping by by his table because there was like a new gal who was there only like a couple of days. And she had like three, like two top tables, but she just was not really figuring it out quickly enough. I'll just say that. And so I'm like, okay, we need to have like overall good, move, the customers need to keep moving through fairly quickly. So I was helping her out, just keeping an eye out her tables. It was right next to my section. And so at the end of the gentleman's meal, he comes up to me, and he was there with his son. Really nice gentleman. He walks up to me. He's like, basically, are you interested in a position? I have a medical practice, where I have a practice, and I really think that very impressive. I enjoyed, how your customer service skills and so on. He said all these really great things. And I kind of start, giggling. I'm like, yeah, that sounds really nice. I so appreciate the offer, but I'm only 14. Like, well, if you can work here legally, I'm sure that you can work in healthcare. And I was like, okay. And so I called, he gave me his business card, put his office manager's number on there. And I reached out to her, and sure enough, I did my interview process and all that. And that's pretty much how I got into healthcare. So I worked with that practice, and a few after, I'd worked with he and a few colleagues of his, helping in different areas around their practice. And then I moved to another city out of state for for about a year and a half. My mom wanted to go back to school and move us out of state for a little short stint. And so we did that. And I said, oh, I'll probably, try to do a normal thing. And my mom unfortunately got into an accident. I ended up at another practice, sitting in the waiting room, waiting for her. And like, in that moment, I'm overhearing what they're talking about. And they just started a new software. And, it's all God. Like I'm like, the software that I know, like the back of my hand. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, hey guys. So I hear you talking about this. And they brought me into the back office right then and there.
Wow.
And I helped them, I trained them on some things in the software, and then they hired me. And, and so and literally at this time, I'm about 16 and a half or so. And so that's pretty much been, the history for me. I've been very, very blessed with some amazing relationships, and I've loved all of the folks that have helped me along my journey earlier on. And, my initial thought, I've always loved healthcare before even going into the business side. Like, I had been volunteering. I was a candy striper, that fun, affectionate term, at the hospital for years. And I always used to volunteer at nursing homes and things. I wanted to be a provider. Specifically, cardiology was my passion. And so when I was running, I moved into managing a practice. I managed my first practice. I was hired there at the age of 17, and they had a couple of locations in the DC area. And initially I thought
business.
It was great. I mean, it's crazy when I think about the age. I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, I ended up essentially running into a patient of ours who, he and his wife were both, she had just finished with med school, was in residency, I think, and he was still in med school. And they told me some of the best advice that I could have ever heard, because they said, look, if you're going to go to med school, here's what you need to know. Do not go out there and get a boatload of loans or, money, and then feel like you basically have to spend the first decade or more of your career just paying back your loans.
Right.
It's like, do a little side hustle. And they were doing e-commerce at that time. And I say e-commerce, I'm sure what we think of e-commerce, it was not at that. I mean, this is
right.
This is what, like,
long ways.
Yeah, 17, 18 years ago. Yeah, but it was e-commerce. They were doing something big at the time, and because it was brand new, basically.
Right. Yeah.
And he said, try to find something that you could do on the side, do a little side hustle, even the entire way through med school. And at least at the bare minimum, you'll cover some costs for yourself, maybe just not living 100% on loans, basically. Gotcha. And I started a family young. I got married and such when I was like 20. And that's when it was like, well, I should probably take their advice if I'm going to do this. Cause now I've got a family and I want to start a family and all this stuff in my mind. And so, yeah, so I started kind of getting creative. I'm like, I don't know what I should do. I'm trying to like research businesses. And I had already been helping the provider, the practice, the owner, really, the providers. I was the practice administrator, but I'd been helping a few of their colleagues out. And she said, one of them actually was a husband and wife, they were pediatricians. They were like, you should really consider doing this like as a thing. Like, why do you want to go to med school? And I'm like, no. I'm thinking about doing this as like maybe continue it as like a side hustle, just some consulting here and there. And he looked at me, he's like, you don't want to go to med school. And I'm like, yes, I do. He's like, you have a baby at home. He's like, basically close your eyes and open them up when your child is like 7 years old. He's like, that is pretty much what's going to happen to you. You're going to erase the next few years of your child's life because it'll be a blur, because you won't remember anything. You'll be exhausted. And so, I started to really think about it, and I hadn't really decided that I was just going to do it full time when I started the business. So I started a business and said, I'm just going to go with the flow. And it happened. God blessed me. Floodgates opened, and I was busy very quickly. Wow. And so, yeah,
Now, let me ask you a question. When you started your business, was it something to where you kind of research on your own how to legally start your business by filing with your state, getting your tax ID and all that? Or did you have a mentor?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh my gosh. I remember all the emotions. So I don't come from like a family of entrepreneurs by any means. So that's the first thing you have to know. So I would say that I was a bit of the anomaly. Like most people they go the safe route, get a good job, go to school, get a good job, like the whole, and I was, keep in mind, I was pre-med at the time when, because think about the ages that you heard me say, right? So I was in undergrad, right? I was in school, and I didn't do the typical thing. I didn't finish the school and do the next thing. That I've always been a consumer of information. So I love knowledge, which is why you and I have that in common, which is why we have this podcast, because we just like to learn about new things and, really trying to understand and leveraging the great things that people are doing in healthcare and in industries that support healthcare. And so that's how I've been since I'm pretty young, pretty hungry for business development and personal development. So I pretty much bought every book, and I was in the library a lot. And then I pretty much bought every book on the shelf that existed around medical billing, which wasn't a lot. I bought Entrepreneur magazine, they used to make, I don't know, they probably still do make those business kits.
Yeah.
As a big old whopping binder. It had all the stuff, everything that you need to start a business, a medical billing business at that time. And then I brought, marketing books, guerrilla marketing, and all the stuff that you would need. And I pretty much avoided the things that I hated, which I hate till this day: financial stuff and legal stuff.
Oh, no.
Yeah, exactly. I still hate it, except I learned the hard way that you can hate it all you want, but it's still got to get done. So you better leverage people that know what they know.
Very true.
Yeah. So I for sure learned as much as I could from all the resources that exist in the world.
Absolutely. And, I think about starting a business, I would say probably one of the typical feelings any business owner would feel, especially initially, is that, the fear of failing, right? Because there is no guarantee when you start a company. And you basically have to work for every dollar that you do get. And I think, starting off, what was your feelings about taking this endeavor, and, whether you would be successful at it or not?
Wow, that's a really powerful question. For sure, fear of failure. And I mean, you got to keep in mind the age that I was, right? And I've been blessed. If you meet my mother today, people think she's my sister. I've had really great genes, but I still look young, and people would they would give me say, what? You want to do my what? So I for sure felt what I would call, these days, everybody affectionately calls it imposter syndrome. Um, and I absolutely was challenged with imposter syndrome. Like I
Yeah.
felt fear of rejection and judgment,
Right.
not from the purposes of me feeling, not from the place of me feeling like I could not do what I knew I could do. I had done it multiple times over again and great feedback and testimonials, but getting into the conversation with a new lead or prospect and
Mhm.
hiding behind the phone basically, because I didn't want people to see, like, they have to hear my professional voice and I sound
Right.
all mature and whatnot, but if they saw me, they like, oh, she's a kid, like, so
They're like, wait a minute.
exactly, you're like 21 years old, what do you want to do? Like, I've been in business for 30 years, what do you know about anything? Yeah, so it's
Oh goodness.
hard. I just struggled with that, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. Like that took, and the first few years of any business is
Yeah.
challenging.
Mhm.
Add to it, I was young.
Mhm.
I also had a young family, which turned into a young divorce. Well, not
Mhm.
divorce, but it
Right.
was a annulment, which makes it even more exciting. And a really bad kind of breakup and end of that relationship. So life was tricky for me. So
Yeah.
I definitely had my own struggle, I think, with just kind of navigating the business world, trying
Sure.
to figure
Sure.
things out. But I'm
Yeah.
blessed that like it pushed me to learn to mature faster as a business owner because I
Mhm.
had my own set of challenges, right? Versus
Right.
some folks that have a lot more to fall back on, like maybe family that
Mhm.
invest in their businesses or, loved ones that just kind of throw money at them. I had none of the above. I just had me and
Right.
my grit and
Right.
my desire to grow. And
Mhm.
so, I just continued to press on, and perseverance was, a big capital letter word
Yeah.
in my vocabulary, like
Yeah.
dust it off and keep it moving, even if they said no, or they, you know, or you didn't quite get that deal that you really hoped for to kind of keep the bills paid up to date and things like that. So, it was
Mhm.
a hard beat for the
Yeah.
first few years.
Wow. You said something very powerful, right? Because you were in a situation in life where it's either you figure it out and figure out how to be successful in this business or you don't, right? And you can tell you had that mentality. I have a young family. I have this business. I need to figure out how to make this happen. It's almost as if when your back is against the wall, you have nowhere to go but forward. And if you're going to go forward, you're going to do anything and everything that you have to do to make sure that you come out successful. And I think when people, find themselves in that situation and you come out of it, successfully, it does mature you. It does make you even wiser, and even for me, I kind of have a similar situation like that too. And so but it's always nice and refreshing to hear that. And I think a lot of young entrepreneurs, business owners, they need to hear that because you're right, not everybody's going to come with several $100,000 to invest in your company, but sometimes, yeah, you have to start from the ground up. And despite whether you feel like you're too young or you're not knowledgeable enough, but everybody starts somewhere, and as long as you stay committed to it, then in time things will continue to grow. So that's really nice to hear.
Absolutely. And it's so interesting that you say that, about the not feeling like you have enough knowledge or enough
Mhm.
expertise. It's so fascinating to learn how many people, no matter how many years of expertise or anything, they all struggle with
Mhm.
that inadequacy feeling, and that imposter syndrome. Like at some point in their career, it is
Yeah.
real. Like,
Yes.
it might be what's the word, waves. It might come in waves of saying, today I feel really empowered and very confident, and then something
Mhm.
happens that makes you question, or the ground gets a little shaky, and now you go through another wave of weeks or months of imposter syndrome kind of overshadowing everything that you do.
Right.
And so you're not alone, that any
Mhm.
entrepreneur, if you're looking at starting a business or you're new to healthcare even and hoping
Right.
to go out on your own, it's real, and it's just a matter of like that, the big capital letter word, perseverance, and recognizing the truth is there's the blessing really is that there's so many
Absolutely.
people who have written resources and have information and groups to support you all the way through.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and you asked earlier about coaching or guidance. You know, I've always been a seeker. That's just, I am a seeker still to this day. This is just part of my nature. And so not only me just consuming information, but I've always been curious, you know, who has done this before me? Who can I learn from? You know, and I didn't have, as I said, I didn't have anybody in my family. It wasn't in my blood, so to speak, to be an entrepreneur.
Right. Right.
And so I really was hungry to try to get connected to like a coaching group or something. And I really kind of bounced around to a few different ones. I got connected to like there was like the group called like growth coaching. And, you know, I loved, like, I've always loved Tony Robbins. He's one of my favorite, but I've just trying to find like group of people, peer group, to try to say, okay, like, you know, who can I learn from? Like,
Right.
I might be negative 15 years of experience that all these people have, but maybe I can give myself that little leg up by just surrounding myself with, you know, with those folks. And it may not, you know, be directly connected to my industry, but it's going to give me an opportunity to like really tap into what it is that, you know, I may not be able to learn quickly on my own, right? Stuff,
Right.
like I said, related to legal stuff and finances
Mhm.
and all the exciting worlds of, you know, pages and pages of contracts and laws and
Right.
I love that stuff. Taxes, yes. That's me gritting my teeth.
Yeah. I hear you.
Yeah.
That is amazing. So, at what point for you when you felt like, okay, you know what, I passed that 3 year mark? Because I think they say the first 3 years of any, business is probably the most crucial, right? And they say if you make it out of that 3 year, then for the most part, you should be good to go. But when did you feel like, okay, I've done this for a little bit. I think I've got this under control, and I'm really ready to take this to the next level.
That's a good question. So I don't know. 3 years, I would not say 3 years. I think it 5 years is the number I hear most commonly, and I think that is true to
Yeah.
form to my experience. The first couple of years, you're
Mhm.
just figuring it out.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
unless someone you are just that much of a planner that you have before the business opened and you had plenty of time to create
Mhm.
a full-on strategy, and you know you felt like you could hit the ground running,
Yeah.
then you probably felt pain for the first couple of years. And even so, you know, some people do all that crazy planning for years in advance of their business,
Mhm.
and then they realize there's no industry, like, or no, there's no customer for the solutions that they've built. Like, it's almost better
Right.
that you start into the business and really learn to be agile and make adjustments fairly quickly.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so for me, I think that probably, I mean, I'm going to be honest, probably it wasn't until about year 8 for me that
Wow.
I felt really good.
Sheesh.
Like, I'm to be honest, like I would say,
Wow.
like, I mean, we grew quickly. I was blessed. Like, we grew very quickly. I had, you know, a team within the first year. I had at least 2 other employees on the team. And then we doubled over the next year, client base and revenue, which phenomenal growth. Um, but again, it was me figuring stuff out. My biggest problem, at like most entrepreneurs at the beginning, I was a, what is it, jack of all trades, master of none. I wanted to do everything. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm going to be the marketing person, and I'm going to be this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do bookkeeping. And it wasn't until probably about year 7 or 8 that I said, okay, I need to start really bringing out experts and
Mhm.
choosing to say, okay, this element doesn't need to be here. I don't need to be doing like, or having someone in-house to do my bookkeeping and accounting. I should partner with an agency that knows it and knows it well. And
Right.
that's all they
Right.
do. That's their
Right.
specialty. And, you know, same thing for pretty much every area of the administrative side of the business, just trying to
Mhm.
find the expertise and saying,
Absolutely.
who can I leverage to bring into the business to help me up level and move it move the business forward. This is probably
Mm.
about year 5 or 6 that kind of got to a good plateau. Like the growth was there, but it was like I was so busy with all things, right? Trying to
Right.
be the everything, all the C's, right? All the C suite, basically. I was trying to fill
Exactly.
it.
Exactly.
And plus sales and all, it's like add in all
Everything.
that. Yeah. And so I said, okay, like I'm in a place where I really need to take a step back. And that was when I started really working heavily with a business strategy coach, basically someone who kind of helped me really pull things together. And I still work with her to this day because I adore her, and she has just phenomenally helped me in my life, just to kind of pull my world together to have a business that serves me instead of doing what unfortunately a lot of folks who move into the entrepreneurial world, what they do is they launch into a job. Like
Mm.
they created a business that is not just it's a job with almost an inconsistent paycheck if you haven't
Yeah, yeah,
if
you're
you
right.
haven't created a business that
Yeah,
is has a strong foundation,
true,
right?
true.
So you end up basically, it's, yeah, you've got the autonomy maybe, but you really do not have a foundation and something to fall back on as if you were, if you were working for another organization. So
Mhm.
you've created a painful job for yourself, one that you don't know if you'll get a paycheck the next month or whatever, which is
Right,
hard.
right. No, very true. Very true. I mean, you are definitely dropping some good knowledge here, because man, I mean, you're definitely far along than I am, for sure. But
About that. So tell me, so okay, well, I want to learn more about Rene Lumene. So I need to know. I'm done rambling on. You heard my story.
oh no,
Rene
we're just getting
Lumene.
started.
Rene Lumene. What is his story? Who is this cat?
All right. All right. Well, definitely, your story is inspiring for sure. And I know I've been learning a lot from you. So I do appreciate all the gems that you constantly drop on me. And I'm sure for others who are listening as well. Well, so for me, I knew, growing up, I think as early as middle school, I wanted to be in business. I just didn't know what exactly in business. I figured someday I might own, a company. And so I remember, after high school, I joined the Navy, and so in the Navy, I was, a hospital corpsman and became a surgical tech. And after finishing my schooling in the Navy, I got stationed at the Naval Hospital, Jacksonville, Florida. And I remember in 2006, Dr. Whittegren, he was a general surgeon, and it was just him and I. We were doing a laparoscopic inguinal hernia repair procedure, and he asked me, he's like, "Hey, so are you new here?" And I told him yes, and he said, "Are you planning on going to college?" And I told him absolutely, and he said, "What are you going to major in?" And I said, "Well, I think I'm going to major in to become a nurse." And he said, "Do you really like that, or are you just saying it?" I said, "Well, I guess I'm just saying it because all the rest of the surgical techs, they're going to school to become a nurse. So I figured that was a natural progression for me too." But then he said, "What do you really like?" I said, "I like business. I just don't know what exactly." So then he said, and then I told him, "But I do enjoy healthcare." And that's when he told me about healthcare administration. I think I was 19 at the time, and I've never heard of healthcare administration until it came out of his mouth. And so then I asked him, I mean, we're like, in a dark room, in the middle of doing this procedure. And he said, so then I asked him, "What is healthcare administration?" And he said, "Well, think of yourself as being a CEO of a hospital, and you're being responsible for it. And under you, you'll have other administrative staff who would manage other departments, and make sure that everything is running successfully from an operational standpoint." I said, "Huh." So okay. I went home, I Googled healthcare administration, I read up on it, and that's when I knew that's what I want to do from a career standpoint. Fast forward, I get out the Navy, and, I go on to, get my master's, and, start working for different companies. And I'm gaining experience managing medical practices, um, getting a little bit into compliance, just really learning a little bit of everything, what it takes to start a medical practice, what it takes to manage it, how to manage staff, learning finance. I mean, just really learning all of this over a course of 14 years. And it wasn't probably until maybe the past 8 years I started getting this urge to start my own company, right? And over the course of that time, I started a couple of things. Things may not have panned out. Went back to the drawing board and just really trying to figure my way as to, okay, what is it I really want to do? And so this is where my back was against the wall story comes into place. So here I am here, right, working in Dallas at one of the big major hospitals, and and the director of operations, he comes to me. Well, actually, he calls me and say, "Hey, can we schedule, um, you know, a time at my office to do your evaluation and all that?" I said, "Okay, cool." So I go to his office and he's like, "Hey, I just want to let you know, everything is going good. It's going okay. But here goes the but. Your position is going to be eliminated." So this was in early 2019.
Oh,
So I was like, so I sat
that's a
there.
big butt.
Yeah, I know. He was like, "Yeah, the company is definitely going through some reorganization, all that uh, corporate politic talk." So right then and there, I took off my badge. I said, "Hey, okay, thank you." And I'm getting ready to walk out. He's like, "Wait, wait, 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 wait." He's like, "Well, you actually have like 4 more months, before your last." Right?
4 months? That's really generous. Wow. You were like, this is it. This is let me give you my gun and my badge, or my, what
Yeah,
do they call it? Like a
yeah,
captain.
I
Oh,
know.
here you go. Take it out.
So at that point, and the funny thing is, I wasn't even upset. I was just like, I felt no emotion whatsoever. And and
That's that readiness. That's what that
right.
was. It was like,
Yeah,
it's like you expect there'll be a storm, but it's like if God says,
hmm yeah,
I got this, and you feel that sensation of calm and peace, and yeah.
correct. Correct. It was just peace. It was calm. I wasn't upset. I was just ready to just handle my ID and my office key and everything. And so he's like, "Nope, nope. You got 4 more months left." He said, "If anything, please look around the company. If there's, any positions available that you're interested in, please let me know." And so, as the months started to progress, I figured, well, let me start looking elsewhere. And I mean, I probably went to like 8 different interviews for different companies, and I've always made it to the last interview, and I never got the job. But at the same time, I wasn't even disappointed. So then I said, this has never really happened to me before. Usually I can land something and I'm good. But what I realized during the process of going through those going through the interviews, I knew that it doesn't matter how much money they offered me, I would not be happy, because I kind of got to the point where it wasn't fun, going to work for another company, because that passion, that desire to want to work for myself, it outweighed any money than what a company could offer me at that point in time. So then I remember, being home with my wife, and I told her, I said, "Listen, I don't think I'm going to be happy wherever I go." I said, "I really want to work for myself, but I just don't know." I said, "I don't think we're in a position for me to do that. Bills still have to get paid, daycare bills have to get paid, all that stuff." But this is what really gave me, the motivation and the desire to really make this work. because my wife said, listen, I know this is something you've been wanting to do for a very long time. She said, I'll give you a year. I know you could do this. You have the experience and you're smart enough. You have the knowledge to be a consultant. When she said that, I said, consulting? I said, I said, you know what? I never thought about that. But then she said, I know you can do it, but I'm going to give you a year. If for whatever reason it doesn't pan out, then, you'll go ahead and apply for a job somewhere else and just kind of go from there. I said, okay. So shortly after that, I went ahead, I registered my business in the state, I got my tax ID, and out of the blue, this psychiatrist called me and he said, hey, I saw your LinkedIn profile and I need somebody to, help me with my practice. I had a young lady who used to work with me, but she's actually moving and I really want to take my practice to the next level. I was wondering if you can meet me out for lunch and maybe we can kind of discuss something. So then basically I go and I meet him and he said, hey, I would like to hire you. But then I said, no. I said, I'm sorry. I'm done. I'm done working for anybody else. But
God, no, thank you.
yeah,
I'll gracefully decline your offer for a job.
er, but then of course, right? So then I said, well, what if I do consulting for you? And so he said, can you do that? I said, absolutely. Why not? And and so he said, well, how much should I pay you a year? And I tossed out a number and he said, absolutely. And this is where I realized, dang it, I sold myself short because I should have said more.
Exactly. If there's no hesitation, something's wrong. Like there should be at least a pause. Like you
Yeah,
want them to say, let me see if I can make that happen. Okay, okay. Like
right, exactly, but it was a great learning experience for me because I realized I was like, man, I'm like, okay, so okay, if I get paid this and if I could get maybe two or three more, I'm like, man, I will have surpassed what I was getting paid at my other job. So then that's when I realized, okay, this could definitely be something for real. And sure enough, after a couple of months of working with him, another psychiatrist he knows ended up calling me and say, hey, Dr. Such and such told me, what you're doing with him. I was wondering, can you help me out too? And then from there, word of mouth, it just started spreading. And then
yes.
different providers reached out to me. And that's when I knew, okay, I definitely have something here. But, being a small business owner, you know, you kind of alluded to it to where you wear multiple hats, right? I mean, I'm the guy that's doing credentialing, billing, all this different stuff. And then it kind of gets to a point to where it's like, okay, I'm kind of stretched too thin. And now I really need to kind of start having the mindset of how can I put this business in position to still operate, but not really needing me to be in the day to day stuff. So then that's when I realized, okay, I need to find somebody, whether a part time person to start off and then eventually full time, but just kind of going through that evolution of of the business growth for my company. And so far, I can say that it has been such a humbling experience because again, right, I mean, this is how I feed my family.
Mhm.
And and if I don't if I don't work, then there's no way I'm going to be able to produce an income, right? But also too, it put me in a position where I was working for a company. I was in a high level director role, but now I'm the guy picking up the phones, right, talking with patients, scheduling their appointments. I'm doing all these stuff that my support staff would be doing, but at the same time, it allows me to sharpen up my skills and to really relearn those skill sets and duties. And so
Yeah.
now is that okay, as my business is starting to grow, I'm looking towards to next year, like, okay, I need to add somebody else to my team. And so I think for me, that's probably one of the most exciting things to know that I can grow my team And as I see this company growing, it's like, man, I remember when it was just me sitting in this room here, right? But now, eventually to be able to grow it and add people with to have the expertise, to have the knowledge, to like, hey, you can take care of this credential, or you can take care of of this practice startup, or add more people to do more patient remote scheduling, whatever it is. And so it's just to be able to grow my company. So what started off as a simple consulting ended up growing into more of a management service organization, and just being that administrative arm for small to mid-sized physician practices.
I love it. What's the name of the business?
It's called Healthcare Experiences.
I love it.
And the reason why I call it that is because I want to make sure that all my clients have the best experience, and even their patients as well. And I truly believe in customer service. When you have that servant mentality, and I think people are much more happier and appreciative for the things that you do.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we love this for the same reason, being able to focus on all the stuff that most people separate from the concept of customer service or patient facing. But these elements, the business side, all the kind of administrative tasks, those
Mhm.
are the things that keep the revenue moving through the organization. And they
Right.
still have, they're an extension still of that patient touch. So still
Absolutely.
having that understanding and respect for customer service is so vital. And
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that, could arguably be the missing ingredient from organizations that aren't seeing the results from their patients healing, even because the providers are busy, they're bogged down with all the stress, the patients feel the stress, they are maybe upset by the financial anguish and heartache that
Mhm.
the billing or administrative team is causing them. So I mean, it's all just kind of a snowball. And so
Yeah,
yeah.
it is.
um,
It is. It
very
is.
cool. So tell me a little bit about the desire kind of for the healthcare, what you want to see healthcare experiences do in the future moving forward.
So very interesting question, right? So for me, where I see healthcare experience being able to do in the future, especially for providers, my thing is trying to make it more affordable for providers to be able to start their practice, to be efficient by streamlining their processes, um, by helping them implement technology, and so to be able to get more done with, maybe, and I don't know, it might be bad to say, but I'm probably going to catch some flack for this, but being able to get a lot more done with I guess less workforce or manpower, if you will. And the reason why I say this is because what I realized when the whole coronavirus thing hit, I started getting a lot more contacts from PAs and nurse practitioners who want to start their telemedicine practices.
Mhm.
And and one thing you can't forget, somebody have to answer the phones, somebody still have to do the billing, um, somebody still have to handle all those administrative tasks and duties. And so with the way I have things set up for my clients, basically they don't have to go out and hire a full-time staff, right? I
Mhm.
mean, it would cost them so much more to go that route, to actually have a full-time staff in office.
Oh,
But if they were to come on board with my company, I mean, they're really paying fraction of the cost, honestly, but still be able to, but my company is still able to be just as productive, and to get a lot more done. And so what providers are realizing is that, man, I'm saving a lot more money compared to if I actually had to hire employees to be able to handle each individual task for me. And so ideally, for them, it's saving them money, but also giving them the ability to start up their practice fairly quickly, and of course to get up and running as soon as possible.
Yeah, what a gift of technology. It's so interesting, to hear you say this because, it's, I've always loved the concept of the medical entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Being able to say that this provider can treat their patients how they would like to, and spend the time that they would like to spend with their patients to help them achieve the desired outcomes that they themselves, the provider, want,
Mhm.
versus feeling like they have to be wrapped into this larger hospital organization,
Right.
no longer have their autonomy, no longer have control really over
There
the
you
way
go.
they care for their patients.
There you go.
And I think right now we're in this beautiful, I would hope, kind of like a renaissance, a little bit of an awakening period where we have this leveraging of technology. We have the insurance
Mhm.
carriers that are saying finally they're going to embrace telemedicine and the potential behind
Right.
telemedicine, because that was always a show before. It was possible,
Yeah.
but it was a hot mess to try to get it all paid. And still, it's still working out the kinks, we'll say, massaging the kinks out. But but
Mhm.
COVID, or coronavirus, right, has helped us to
Yeah.
helped us to really kind of move that along more quickly. And it
Right.
allows the opportunity for the folks who have always wanted to be have their own practice. They say
Mhm.
medical entrepreneur doesn't mean you have to go out and open up a big massive practice and you've got to hire
Right.
all these, like you said, leveraging all these other providers and support staff and all of that. Very much, if maybe it's you and your husband he has another venture, or potentially also a provider, there you go, you have a stronger business opportunity to
Yep.
be able to even support your patients remote,
Mhm.
and having a good mix of flexibility,
Yeah.
quality of
Absolutely.
life,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
is a very valuable thing. Some would argue more valuable than the extra zeros on a paycheck working around the clock for a larger organization. So
Correct.
um, so yeah, I mean, I really think it's a beautiful thing to have, as you're saying, to have that the attention where it's needed without
Mhm.
all of the extra stress, because there's so many providers that start their practices and hire all this staff, and it goes back to what I was saying, like
Mhm.
you're not even comfortable paying yourself a salary, then you have all
Mhm.
these people to worry about, and then you've got to worry about a manager to oversee all those people,
Right. Right.
someone to really, or administrator to really pull that all together.
Exactly.
So, I mean, starting small, sometimes it's the most, it's an even more um, fulfilling way to do things, because you have more control over what you're
Mhm.
doing.
Yep.
You don't, the dream of entrepreneur life doesn't have to be this big buku bucks and this massive organization.
Correct.
It can look different, and it's important for, I think, the individual to lean into what that means for them.
Absolutely.
I want more time with my kids. I want to work, 30 hours a week, and I want to have half of that be where I'm doing that remote with my patients. And, being able to create your own schedule and
Mhm.
not feeling like, it has to look like every other large practice makes it
Correct.
the only way to go. So,
No,
yeah.
absolutely. You definitely said it best, for sure. And, I think with this whole COVID thing, it really has changed the game. I think, for, our companies, especially a guy like me who loves startups, because now with the whole telehealth thing coming around, now these providers, especially the mid levels, they're like, man, I can go do my own side thing
Mhm.
and maybe still work part time here, but eventually have my own business going. And I
Mhm.
think that's the way it should be because, we talk about access to care and is being, access to care is such a big deal because we still have people who cannot, drive 30, 40 miles just to go see their primary care doctor. But with, telehealth, it's allowing people to have that access. And the more providers that open up their telehealth practice, is just going to, make it that much easier for people to be able to choose whoever they want to see.
Oh yeah. No, I think that, I mean, we can have a longer conversation about this for
Yeah.
sure, but telehealth is here to stay, and I am thrilled about that.
Absolutely.
for everybody's sake. I mean, healthcare, I don't know why, but I mean, you talk about biomed and all these other like, things, tools and resources that we use for caring from on a hospital level. But when it comes to like infrastructure and administrative stuff, we are so far behind, like
Yeah.
so far behind. And it's painstaking for us, especially on this side where I'm ready to bring technology in. Let's leverage it. Let's make it happen. And I go into a hospital organization and they're using like a software that looks like it's from the 1980s and it's got these little
Uh,
windows and it's
yeah,
like you can't, oh, here's where the accounting is, and then there's this little
I
clip.
know.
I'm like, what is this? Like, why? And because of that, they don't have all these other tools to support what they can do for their patients, like remote patient monitoring and
Yeah,
telehealth and
that's another
all,
one. Yeah.
yeah, all these things that are gonna they have it's the impetus, right? It's just the
Yes.
start. Like we are just touch and it's going to grow so quickly because
Yeah.
now the expectation is going to be Dr. Such and such. You should be able
Mhm.
to see me remote. Why do you need me to come in there when I just need to, show you this or that? So I'm excited. And I think that
Yeah.
providers that, as they learn and move with the times, if they've been in practice for a long time, they'll
Right.
also be excited because they'll also see the same flexibility. Hopefully some have. They
Yeah.
recognize I can see my patients in the comfort of my own home, maybe even in my PJs.
Right. No, absolutely. Because I think too, right? Because I remember when I started this company, I think one of the first things that I said is that I don't care how big this company get. I don't think I ever really want to have an actual office. Um, because I find how beneficial it is, right? Because for me, I think since I've worked from home, I don't spend a lot of money on gas. I think I might fill up my car maybe once a month, if anything, a month and a half, 'cause I don't really go anywhere, you know?
Same. And it's so funny. Like I totally hear what you're saying there. I think that
Yeah.
Mother Nature is smiling down on us saying, thank you so much for letting me breathe. Because I think COVID has done a blessing, has given us
Yeah.
all a blessing for like letting us give the a little bit more space to nature.
Yeah.
um,
That's
but no,
sure.
for sure. I think it's funny, like, and I've had an office since for a long time. I mean, I had a home office for a while, and then, that grew into like, I just didn't want people in my home anymore. And then,
Yeah.
it was years, right? Years of this, of my business. So, we started growing our, remote team. I'm trying to think like time frame. It had to be 9 years ago, when I hired our first team member that was not in house.
Okay.
Um, and then since then, it's, we've just onboarded folks from various areas, different parts of the country.
Wow.
I think it's funny that, I have always felt like mixed reviews from people. Like some people are like, we're uncomfortable about that,
Mm,
like, oh,
okay.
your people aren't in the same office. And like, and we had control over their environments. We have our own IT and all the infrastructure is ours as far as tools and resources. But they have their reservations about like,
Yeah.
oh, your people aren't in a same room with each other and piled on top of each other and and so that I feel like right now
Uh,
I don't have to worry about that anymore after
no,
COVID because
no.
everybody's used to everybody working from home. I went to call to book a reservation. I have some reservation I was making out in for a trip to Arizona, and
Uh-huh.
I'm on the phone with a lady and her dog. She's the reservation line, the
Mhm.
national reservation line for for Marriott or whatever, and her dog starts barking, and then we're talking and we're just laughing about being home and all that. And I'm like, now it's like we are all at
Yeah.
home. Like I'm
Yeah.
talking to a guy at the credit card company or whatever, like a couple of weeks back, and the airline a few
Yep.
weeks ago. Like, it's like everybody's working from home, and
Yep.
it's so fascinating, like how all of a sudden, like
It
now we
is.
trust it.
It is.
Like,
No, it's true because life will force you to make adjustments, and it's either you adjust or you don't. And I think what a lot of companies are realizing too, because companies who were not equipped to be flexible to where employees can work from home, I mean, they crumbled, throughout this whole coronavirus thing. So I think you see a lot of companies, they're making sure that that their services or products, whether you can get it in person, or you can get it virtually, is going to be big, and that their employees can actually be flexible to work in office or at home, especially when the climate calls for, hey, you know what, we got to start working from home because of whatever the situation might be.
Oh yeah.
But absolutely, I think with with technology, and as we go into the future, I think your company is going to have to be very, very nimble and flexible, to kind of withstand different climate and environments.
Oh yeah. No, it's a beautiful thing. I
Yeah.
think I mean I know I'm not saying that COVID is a beautiful thing. Let me just
No,
be
no,
clear on
no, no.
that. Okay. It's not. But I'm excited about, as you said, the change that's being um kind of thrust upon us, like to
Mhm.
embrace this. It's been so uncomfortable like
Yeah.
this whole year. I mean, obviously COVID has brought a lot of challenges into people's world, but I think that the discomfort of the newness of technology, embracing and shifting so quickly, I think
Right.
it moved us so fast, so far forward, so quickly that it made us,
Yeah.
go move into those that areas of discomfort that we probably would have
Hmm.
never gotten into. Like, I mean, for real, like we probably would not have even touched the surface in another 10 years of healthcare. I mean, we moved so slowly in healthcare when it comes to this
Listen,
business side of healthcare.
you and I talked about this, right? I mean, you're talking about being uncomfortable, just being, a business owner and really trying to market the company and starting YouTube. I'm terrified. So I'm still uncomfortable as we speak right now, but every day I keep telling myself, you need to do it.
Yes. It's so funny. Today I was having a conversation with someone about the really cool thing about, like, so before we've been on Zoom for 5 or more years, like for, I don't, I maybe for as long as I've been around, like we've used Zoom in our business, and we would always send our clients Zoom invites. And it's like, we're usually the ones we'll have our videos on or whatever, but the clients, they would,
Yeah,
like, most of them wouldn't.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
and now it's like, I think people are so used to it, even though they have FaceTime and they're talking to
Right,
their
right,
whatever, talking
right.
to their kids and their family. But the idea that they would put video on and be speaking to someone in business was always, whoa, that's a lot.
Hmm.
I mean, I've done demos with people, new people, even folks that were demoing like products, services that we're looking at, introducing in 2021.
Hmm.
And I'm like, video on, like, you sent me a Google Meet, I'm about to have my video on, like, why don't you have your video on? You sent me a
Right.
Google Meet, like, I'm like, and so it's
Uh,
I actually the other day ended up doing a whole demonstration. I was the only one who kept my video on. There were 4 or 5 people on
man.
the call, and I get it. I'm like, I am determined to
Yeah.
shake it up and be like, I'm gonna let you just look at me the whole time until you finally turn your video on. Like, let's be real here. It is not
There
that
you
serious.
go.
We're people. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you have a
Absolutely.
video camera on your computer. You do. Let's be real.
No, absolutely. Because I was on a call yesterday as well with a couple of providers, and when I first got on it, everybody had their stuff off. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and turn my camera on. And when I did, everybody else did it too. They're like, "Oh, okay, it's not too bad." So, but definitely understand. But somebody got to
Listen,
break the ice.
y'all, you listeners, y'all, you guys have to understand
Yeah.
that rapport can happen
Mhm.
on the screen. Like,
Yeah.
it completely, it tears down all kinds of, when someone's kid comes walking behind them, it's
Mhm.
like, or the dog or the cat or whatever,
Yeah.
somehow all of a sudden you feel, you
You
get
become
the
human.
real,
Yeah.
yes, you
Yeah.
get the real person.
Yep.
Like, they become human in front of you, and that makes the relationships, or maybe you're just talking to a new vendor, makes
Yeah.
it all the more meaningful. Like, why would you want to
Right.
have that kind of sterile, fake
Yeah.
environment? You want the guy to come in the suit and pretend like he's a robot and have a conversation with you. Like, I mean, if he can show up as a person, and all of a sudden, like, now he's just telling you real, hey, this is the real stuff. This is how we show up in business. And we have problems with this, but this is what we can do for you. Like, I mean, I think you'll get a more authentic human.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I definitely agree. Well, definitely, this has been fun for sure. I think, as we kind of share our experience and how we started our own companies and where we are today, and even starting this podcast. Glad that we did, honestly. And I know we got new goals coming up for 2021. So for our listeners, definitely stay tuned. Please follow us on Instagram. It's a Healthcare Disrupted. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and even Twitter. And
LinkedIn,
yes,
right? I think.
LinkedIn as
Okay.
well. Correct. Absolutely. And we're looking forward to just being able to share our content with you guys, and especially with our guests, and to continue to talk about innovation in healthcare, different and new companies that are starting up that are doing things a little bit different within the healthcare industry, but is really shaking things up in a positive way. So we're definitely excited for what the new year is going to bring.
Oh, yeah. Very excited. I think we need to do an episode to talk about that. Maybe that's going to be the next thing, y'all.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. We want to share about all our big plans for 2021 and what we're going to be bringing to you. And we need to hear from you. So send us
Yes.
messages about what you want to learn about. If it's something that you're interested in, maybe you're trying to get out and open your practice. Maybe we share tips on that. Whatever it is you're faced with, let us know. Send
Yeah.
us your messages, and yeah, just kind of stay connected, keep us updated on what's going on in your world. And we'd love to just dialogue with you about it and maybe share a little bit of our experience, and where you are in your career or your practice.
For sure. Yeah, just make sure to visit our website at healthcaredisrupted.org, and you can go to our contact page, and that'll be a great way to really get a hold of us.
Mhm.
And we'll see you guys soon. So it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening. Be sure to check back for new episodes of Healthcare Disrupted. Find out more at www.healthcaredisrupted.org. Until next time.